report on the interim update. We started with 37 parcels. We're now down to 11. It looks like the final tally should be around 5. So we've decreased that. People are coming in and paying. August 11th is the judgment date. That's when we take possession of these properties. And like I said, we continue to aggressively get these people to come in and pay their tax bills. You can see where the delinquent parcels, again in June, we decreased it by close to 900. Real estate tax collections, we sent out the reminder cards a little bit earlier this year. It seems to be paying off. We're ahead of the total receipts we've done in June. Total about $200,000 that we've collected this year versus last year. And we're in the process of selling the delinquent property sale, the county sales. We've sold 6 of the 37, and we're starting a second round of bids starting Monday. I was to the WTCA convention down in Kenosha, the June 10th through the 13th. Some of the topics we discussed were the contaminated parcels, what we should all do. Seems like that seems to be a ongoing obstacle or condition of these parcels that have been contaminated. I think we have 1 or 2 of them in our county that we're dealing with. We talked about the new tax bill and if there was any changes to it coming up this year. The state treasurer came and spoke. At the time, he was talking about the budget, and since then it has been approved. So what he told us was a little bit different than what has happened. Ag conversion was a big topic, where we have ag conversion out there where there's property that's assessed at ag status and what we do if that changes. Then the rest was the WTCA business reports, committee updates. The DOR spoke about omitted and sharing chargeback process for omitted taxes, stuff like that. And then the rest was just discussion, roundtable discussions. So, thank you. Any questions?
No, thank you. Finance Department report.
Good morning. We'll start with sales tax. As you can see from the report that June was down about $3,000 from last year. For the year, we're about $40,000 ahead from 2024. So it's a good pace. And we're on pace for over 3 million, over 3.1 million actually. So after a flat year last year, we've been tracking pretty well this year. I do want to remind everyone that these settlements are about 2 months behind when the activity occurs, so we are heading into our 4 strongest months of sales tax revenue. So that'll be coming up. Any questions there? Moving on to the budget report. A couple things I'll call out on the revenue side here. The interest income is not where it has been, but we are holding on to budget. We're at mid-year point now through June 30th, and interest income's at 51%, so we're just ahead of where we budgeted, so that's good. On the revenue side as a whole, we're just right there. We're at 49% net of any draw, and we should be at 50, so we're running very close. And then on the expense side, including all the transfers that we're doing monthly now instead of waiting until the end of the year, we're at 48%, so we're running just under budget on the expense side. So on the general fund, we're in really good shape. Health and Human Services, the revenues always run a little bit behind because of how heavy we are in grants. We're at 42% for the year. We are doing the draw on HHS monthly instead of, again, waiting till the end of the year. What we're trying to do with both HHS and Highway and the general fund is get everything as month to date as we can instead of having adjustments at the end of the year. And it's been working out really well. So HHS, the expenses are running right on pace, and we do show a large deficit right now, but last year it was even greater for this time of year, so feel all right about it. Highway, we are doing some of the, again, like I've mentioned, some of the journal entries monthly now, so that the transfer is up to date. Revenues are behind. Again, a lot of state money that we get through highway that we always has a lag with when we get the money in. But the expenses are running just a little bit under, so that's good too. We're right in the middle of our heavy season with construction, so to be on budget is good. Any questions there? Just a quick update on 2026, really nothing to say, but everything is due at the end of the month here. The budget requests from the departments, CIP from the departments. We have had a couple position requests that we'll take a look at, and then we'll start compiling. There are a handful of departments that have their whole budget entered already. Not all of them, but a few of them have got it in already. So we'll have more of an update in August. CIP, we are working on bidding. Tim's doing a lot of work with departments on capital items that they are looking to add for next year. As far as CIP for 25, we did have a bigger month. And part of that is we did transfer some highway equipment. This is another thing we used to do at the end of the year. Now we're trying to do these more when they come in. So we had a couple pieces, expensive pieces of highway equipment that we did the transfer from CIP to reimburse highway for. And then this is a time of year when we're getting in the squads. And if you've driven on Railroad, you can see 4 of them sitting there at Don Johnson Chrysler dealership there. And those are awaiting the buildup from GenCom. That's why they're sitting there. Any questions on CIP? All right, moving on then. For the individual department updates, this is another month where we're looking at ambulance. I'm not going to really talk about 2024. We've gone over that a few times. No changes. Our audit is basically complete now. Went very, very well this year, very clean. Actually, Randy's here. She does 90% of the work for that, if not more, and did a very, very good job this year. We're actually trying to get our findings down to 1. So with any luck, we're going to do that. It would be first time in as far back as I looked that we would only have 1 finding. And that's separation of duties, lack of that. And we'll never get rid of that one with a small county, small department like we have. But we're really making some good movement there and very, very pleased with that. Then moving on to ambulance for 25. One thing I really want to point out here that's great news is if you look at about 4 lines down, the ambulance fees, we're running at 71% of budget right now. So halfway through the year, we're at 71%. So we've, John and his crew have done a great job of getting stuff entered. The new billing company is doing a great job. So I just really want to do a call out there. That's something we've definitely lagged at in the past. And we're not only are we running above budget, we're running over $200,000 ahead of last year's pace. So it's all good news. On the expense side, we are running a little bit high. We're at 53%. Part of that is January 1, we decided to go from the 3 people on 2 rigs to 2 people on 3 rigs. It does take just a little bit more staffing. It does make sense, but it takes a little more staffing to do that 24/7. So we've had some extra overtime and some call-in time. But that's something we want to carry forward because it's really reduced our average call or run time. So it's been very effective for the amount it's costing more. I think the benefit to the community is well worth that. So it's something we'll be looking at for budget time for 2026. Then running into the EMSMC report. We go to the next page here. This is a lot of data, but it's when we look month to month, it is pretty useful. Again, the one caveat I'll say is these reports come out very early. So the last month for sure, 2 months, and even into the third month, we get more data as it goes. So it looks like, trip counts are down, charges are down, but those will increase as they update the data. That's not in this report, but John gave that at public safety, and it's right around 10 minutes, which is really good. Obviously, having 2 rigs at the station here helps a lot because probably 80% of our runs are City of Hayward, Town of Bass Lake. And, so the proximity really helps having the 2 rigs here. Helps with the average for the whole, obviously each township is going to vary. But for the concentration of where our runs are going, it's definitely helped our overall run time.
We have any issues with personnel?
We're working on some things, yes. One thing I've been working on with John is setting policy and procedures, and he's come up with a manual that I'm reviewing. It's in draft form right now, just so that everybody knows what to expect. Any other questions there? Then the next few pages just show where the money is coming from. We've mentioned this several times. We're very Medicare, Medicaid dependent. The payment percentage on those isn't as great, so we're never going to get to the 50% goal that we've always talked about, but we're definitely just the gross number of our receipts is showing that we're making headway. So then I'm going to move down to the pie charts, which I think was one up. This shows where the aging is. That's something we've been looking at for over 3 years now, is how long out is the money, and having the current at 45% is really strong. That's what we're targeting, more current, less over the 181 to over 365. We've made some headway. We last looked at this report 3 months ago because we're doing this quarterly now, and the current is down about 2% from where it was. But the longer, we're just in over a year now with this new billing company, so that is to be expected that some of that stuff is going to change now as we're fully relying on EMS/MC data. And then the next one, the one next to it there, is just a pie chart of where their payments are coming from. And again, it shows the reliance on the different Medicare, Medicaid sources. One thing I will note is from last quarter when we looked at this, the outstanding balance is down 300,000 too. So again, that's good movement towards collections. Any questions on that report? Then we'll move into emergency management reporting. First, we're going to look at 2024. Yep, that's the one. I apologize, these do get pretty small. For the year, both came in a little bit under budget, both revenue and expense. The net was about a $2,000 difference from budget, came in $2,000 worse than we budgeted. So that's not too bad, about 1.5% on expenses. Moving into 2025, it's very early. We haven't received any aid payments yet, so we don't have any revenue in emergency management, and the expenses are at 42%, so running a little under budget there. Moving on to medical examiner for 2024, a little bit under on the revenue side, $1,000. So it's not like it's a huge budget hit overall, but we did come in a little under. Also came in a little over on the expense side. We'll look at that for budgeting this time around and see if we need to make any adjustments. The expense side, a little bit out of our control because, when we get called in for a medical examination, then we have to pay for it. Otherwise, they're on call-in duty, but then once they have a call, that's when it costs us a little more money. So the activity drives the cost a little bit there too. For 2025, on the revenue side, we're actually 49%, so we're basically right on budget and a little bit under on expenses. So this year's looking better than last year at this point. Any questions there? Then moving on to the investment report, as we know, the feds haven't adjusted rates yet. Our earnings rates are still holding pretty strong. Everything's over 4% except for the amount we have at the local bank. So we're pretty happy with the results. The really nice one was the last CD that we had came in at 4.17, which in this environment, and that was 2 months ago, was very strong. We do have a PMA CD coming due in August, so that will be on the agenda for next month is replacing that CD. Well, as we have with all of these, we'll put that out for bids and award it to the highest generating bid. So that will be on the agenda for August. Any questions there? And I think I mentioned this last month, but the ARPA money is all spent. It had been committed. The money is gone now. All right, so then next we'll discuss the GenCom project, the expansion of the emergency services radio tower network. The project was approved a few months ago. The issuance of the debt was approved last month. The actual issuing of the bids will occur next week early. We'll have the bid results. What you're looking at now is what the resolution will look at for the full board to approve. In the past, we have had them sold. This time around, PMA did it a little later, so we won't have the results until the board meeting. That is fully legal to do. But this is what this will be all filled in when we see it next week. And then we'll have the bid results and we will be awarding the bids there. PMA has suggested that we handle this one differently and do it as a non-rated issue. I do have a question in with them to see if that will affect future issues. Doing it as a non-rating, we don't go through the Moody's call. It would save about $16,000 on issuance costs. They don't think that will change the rate that we're given, but I do want to make sure it doesn't affect future issues that could be larger. So I'm waiting for that. Well, we're not approving an actual bid today. We're approving, but yes, I guess. The motion I would make would be to approve the resolution contingent on the recommendation from the agreed upon recommendation from PMA. If it doesn't make sense for us to do it non-rated, I won't do it that way. If it can save $16,000, not affect the interest we pay, then it might make sense to. And the reason is this is a smaller issue, and PMA is saying that doesn't carry the weight it would with a larger issue. And then the last part here is the sample repayment plan, which will be very similar to this. The rates could change from, they budgeted 4.5%. I would guess the rates will be more around 4.25%, hopefully even a little bit under that.
So I would make a motion to approve the resolution awarding the sale of $2,825,000 general obligation promissory notes, series 2025, contingent upon what I didn't.
PMA's recommendation being approved.
PMA's recommendation being approved.
Allowing me to approve the
Right.
recommendation. And if it makes sense to do
You
a
got that, Liz?
non-rated issue. You got that, Liz?
Resolution awarding the sale of 2,825,000 general obligation promissory notes, series 2025, contingent upon PMA's acceptance or your PMA's.
My acceptance of PMA's recommendation
Recommendation.
of a non-rated issue.
On the county administrator's acceptance of PMA's, say it again,
Recommendation of a non-rated issue.
of a non-rated issue.
And would you like to put any constraints in there? It has to be cost neutral or I mean, it would save money if we went with non-rated.
What's your recommendation?
Well, they're saying it would save 16,000 in
Right.
issuance costs. If that nets out with interest down the road, I won't do it.
Okay.
So I would want to see the actual savings, not the savings up front with the cost down the road of,
I just assumed that went with your,
yeah.
accept your approval.
Well,
but I mean,
I'm telling you my rationale.
Right, you're getting ahead.
I'll second that so that we can discuss it further if we need to. Otherwise, it would still stand as his motion.
So we have a motion, Mark Helwig, second by Stacy Hessel.
So
Any further discussion?
My analysis of their recommendation will come in. They're saying it will save 16,000 directly from issuance costs.
Right.
That's a direct savings. But what I've asked for is a projected change in possible interest rate. And if that
That would eat
ends
it.
up eating it up, then I won't do
Right.
it.
Makes sense. So,
I just want to say that I have total faith in, because I know you have a good handle on the purse, per se. So I think.
Well, I've done a lot of debt issues. I've experienced there, so.
you kind of just gave us a preview of what goes inside your mind when they come back to you. on that.
Yeah.
So any further discussion? All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, resolution passed.
Decisions are data driven, I'll say that. All right, and then next, this is a resolution to establish a condemnation committee and the pay for that. This is a Wisconsin state statute. It's required, statute 32.8, that we have a condemnation commission. I mean, the county just sets it up. It really is under the jurisdiction of the judge to set who's on it. There are recommendations of what type of person has to be on it and actually a limiting factor on how many attorneys can be on it. But this would really just, basically we're establishing the pay. Liz and I did some research on this. It was sketchy on what we had. So I thought it would be better to do the whole resolution to establish it and establish the pay together. So that's what this is.
How often do we have eminent domain issues or?
In our research, it hadn't met since what, 2014 or 11 or
Once every
something?
10 years or something, and Chris Mayberry had started this process and had some of this was in his files, this draft.
So
It's been a while.
It's been a while, yeah.
So that'd be like, like if we wanted to expand the airport to double its size or something, that would be an eminent domain thing. We'll wait for a strategic plan for that. I'm just joking. Maybe not, I don't know.
So anyhow, when we know better, we do better. We know we need this, so we're doing it. Correct,
The
yep.
courts asked us to do this. The judges asked for this. They sent their person down with a file and we worked on it from there. But what you're doing here is establishing the pay rate. So this was what they had before when it was Chris Mayberry's deal, $50 a meeting. And if it goes longer, then they get $15 more. There was one other piece that's not in here, and that is if the person that's the chair is an attorney and they actually end up representing the county as the attorney, there was some consideration for that compensation, but we didn't know how to get that. It was a little bit too nebulous to, so that's trimmed out of here. I mean, assuming we'd use corp counsel anyway.
Mhm.
Motion by Tom Duffy, second by Mark Hellwig. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Approved. Resolution approved. Thank you, Mike. Any correspondence reports from conferences and meetings? Any? Yep.
The Highway Department, last evening we had a public works meeting and the Highway Department did 6 miles of blacktop on Highway W in winter area. And the cost was 1.2 million. And when John did the estimate for it, and then the work came in on $200 under estimate. $200 under estimate. Out of 1.2 million, that's pretty.
Any safe thing?
Yeah.
Spot on.
Well, it just shows that John does a really good job estimating these projects. Yeah.
What was that contribution on the airport?
Ask that again, please.
Maybe the airport.
Oh,
We haven't been invoiced yet, but the budget was about 150,000. Like
it's a
5% of the 5% of the project.
And that's all done. They anticipated taking 2 months and they were way ahead of schedule, which was great. Great for the community, great for the area. Pardon?
How often do you have to repay that? 20 years?
I think this one went like 25 years, didn't it?
Yeah, it went a little over, but the normal is 20 years.
And related to that, we still have coming forward to the full board would be the master plan, which has to be approved. We anticipate that coming in by the end of the year. And then if these bigger airplanes are going in and out, there's a number, I forget the number, it's 400 or 500 a time frame. And then we'd have to be asked to put together a project. The project would be what we ask them to do with the runway probably. And you can bet pretty sure that they aren't going to do any project after just blacktop and now. So we're at least talking 10, 15 years down the road. Anticipation.
Because that's a FAA ruling, not ours. So we just have to comply, correct?
That's
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the runway itself will not be extended or whatever. It's more moving out because we're close to the runway with the, excuse me, with the buildings and our, I can't think what it's called there, but right when it comes up to the runway area right there. Excuse me, but the runway itself will not be extended. It's going out.
I'm just trying to bring you abreast.
No, don't want that kind of room.
Anything further, Ron?
It's
Good.
out to-
Okay, any future agenda items you can think of now? All right, well, thanks, everyone. Meeting adjourned.